There's a whole lot of ugly in them there wings. Let me show you what we need to do to fix it. Hey everyone, welcome back to the shop. Yeah, there is a whole lot of ugly in them there wings. Yeah, because I had never done a really good in-depth viewing, even myself. I didn't show you guys, and I've just been spending probably the past 2.5 hours referencing real plans from Fokkers because the plans for the wings here are not what I like to see in the wings. I mean, it's a good building platform. The instructions are pretty fair on how to do it. It's just whether the original builder paid attention to the instructions. So the first thing I'm going to do is get at least one more camera set up. I've got 3 cameras poised to get different angle shots on how we're going to go through this, because there's a lot of little stuff that was done wrong. Little stuff that can be adjusted with just sandpaper. And then there's some bigger sections where it's going to require removing the wing, the rib cap, and then going in and cutting into the wing. Luckily, it looks like everything on the main spar, there is no issue. And that's the good part. The rear spar on it, that's where almost all of the errors occur. But because it's the rear spar, I'll be able to take the cap off, cut alongside the rib itself, and then clean it out, and then reset the top part of the rear spar down inside. If that was going to be, if it ends up being more problematic, I can always just, and I hate saying this, just cut a notch in the top part, because the center part of the spar is still good. But the main rule of spars is don't cut spars. So yeah, this is where it's going to get really fun. So let me go ahead and get the other camera set up and just show you the ugliness. All right, let me see how well I could do stuff without this camera getting all bouncy on us. These, and hopefully we're going to be able to see them through the camera. You can see here's what the original builder did. Instead of making sure that the top part of the spar, the rear spar, was seated properly down inside the wing, he went ahead, yeah, he glued everything into place, and then he put the rib cap on. And that big chunk of air that's probably not quite a 1/4 inch, but pretty darn close to it, that's a big no-no. So what I'm going to have to do is, I've got all these things marked in green right now as everything sits, where I'm just going to have to come in. These rib caps here will all be removed, just to try to get rid of the problem. Like this one here, what he did is, because right here where the 2 wing sections join up, it's just doubled in. And because it was so high up, you can see how when it's sanded off, there's nothing left of it up here. So this whole cap will be taken off, or even if I wanted to just take it off down to here, because it's just a cap. I can take it off down to here, remove this section, come in and shave this down just right up here at the top of the curve, just to make sure that we're going to go ahead, and when we cap it, it gets capped properly. I mean, little things like this where he did a pretty lousy job butting up the actual rib cap up to the leading edge is no big deal. I could fix that. This stuff here, it's sitting too proud. This has to be at least sanded off. In the past, I've done this when I've worked on other planes, and I just shaved down at a very steep angle, just to make sure, probably 60 degree, just to make sure that we get rid of this edge right here, so when you cover it, it doesn't stick to this and show this part of the spar up. So he did the same thing down here on this end. So I'm going to have to go in, cut it, and then just, like I said, rib caps are a piece of cake. I'll just rip some new ones. Down here, the rib cap stands proud of the top. So like I said, there's a lot of stuff. So this one is not marked yet, but he did he kind of gouged into it at the top. So I'll just go ahead and remove this too. The trailing edge of the wing back here with the aileron hooks up, everything is perfect. this will not have to be touched, which is good. Certain sections back here I'm going to have to come in just to do some adjustments. And as much as I hate to say this, he rounded the tips of these things. And you can round them a little bit. Yeah, so I'm going to have to come in and try to make these, let's just say, just give them a good old-fashioned massage, just so that everything looks, you know, like that's the way it should be. So like I said, the top wing down here, you can see a little bit of light through the bottom, so this will have to be readdressed. And it's how he put the end struts, the wing struts out of the wing. It's the way he glued these into place. He did a really kind of iffy job on that. I'm going to see if I can not touch those parts, but because he glued it in with wood glue, I'm going to come inside here, and just like I did in the fuselage, I'll make some little tri-stock, just put them in here just to glue this differently to the ribs, so that way I'm not going to have an issue where one of these things might want to pop loose in flight. All right, now let's jump into the bottom wing real quick. If you thought the top wing looked kind of ugly, the bottom one's even worse. It starts out here at the wingtip, and you can see that the light through there, and it just edges up. We've got some really big bends here. This whole section of the middle part of the wing is not glued down. It's just like the front of the fuselage was. So this, I think we're good. And we are. We're actually good on this whole entire side. Here's where the issue is. So I may try to come in here with my little, I'll probably come in with my flexible Zona saw blade and see if I can get this inside and cut this and see what we can remove. Worst case scenario, I'll be cutting out this rear section, lifting it off, going ahead and either possibly reusing this, if I can cut it off cleanly, reuse this sheeting, just glue it back in place, or just go ahead and cut some new sheeting. So, like I said, little things. This is really dirty in here. There's a whole lot of little issues that are just going to have to be addressed along the way. I'm still trying to figure this little section out here where it came in, and this is not level where it should be down here. So, yep. So this little end piece down here, I'm going to have to come in and see where the problem was and fix this. And it's very possible I'll remove a section out here, and then I'll just put some backer behind it and then just glue another piece into place and sand it down, and we should be good. So the wings aren't catastrophic. I even came in because for those of you that have built one, or at least read up on them, Fokker D.VIIs did not have any dihedral in the wings, period. With just a quick view on edge, you couldn't really tell whether it had dihedral or not. It almost looks like it has dihedral. So I came in, and I put everything away, but I came in, I put a pin on the end of this wing, pin on the end of this wing, and I did it both ways. I ran a piece of string down, full length of it, and they were built flat, so there is no dihedral in these wings, even though it kind of looks like it. I mean, the way that these wings are designed, the ribs, the root ribs, are taller than the tip ribs. So what you're doing is, even though it's flat on the top of the wing, it's the bottom of the wing that goes up. So if you looked at it sideways, let's see if I can position this so you can see it. Yeah, hopefully you can see it. So if you look at it this way, it looks like it's got dihedral in it, and it doesn't. Because if you look at it from the top, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it well from the top, but if we get it from the top, it's flat. It's just not flat on the bottom side. So even though it doesn't have dihedral in the whole entire wing, the bottom of the wing slopes up, so it acts like a dihedral. So it just adds stability to the plane. So that's the mess we have to deal with. It's not very difficult. It's just a lot of little things. So that was the whole thing with me taking the amount of time just to go through the wings, to make sure that everything was originally built properly. by reading the instructions and seeing how they wanted it set up, and you can backtrack and see how it was built, that the person at least paid attention to that part of the rules of building, so that way you're not trying to put a rib cap on the bottom of a wing when it was designed for the wing to be lifted up the thickness of the rib cap as it was getting built. So at least we didn't have that mess to deal with, because if it was going to be me having to cut apart and rebuild the entire wings, that might just be a stopper in finishing the build on this one. For those of you that watched or at least saw some of the videos of the big orange monster, the big 3rd scale Taylorcraft, that took me 1 year and 7 months, because that was a plane that I was just going to literally just recover it, put new covering on it, and go out and fly it. And taking the covering off, you realized how many times it had been broken, how poorly it was built. So I mean, the plane flies great, and I expect to fly that plane for many years to come. It's a good flying plane, and that's what I want to do with this one. So I'm going to stop talking and let's get back to work. Almost 7 hours down here in the shop. Almost. I took about an hour off. And in that hour, I relaxed. All right, the wing, the top wing is about 90% of where I want it to be. That last 10%, yeah, it takes usually about half the time. There's a couple other things I just need to confirm as to whether the person originally did it wrong or not, and all it would be is just the small little fill pieces. That once they get sanded down, everything gets taken care of, covered, you're not going to see them. It's just, I don't know. And I'm going to look at the plans, not the plans, I'm going to look at the instructions, because the plans don't show it anywhere, and that's my question. So I'm going to read through it and see what it says there. If not, I'll probably just make a couple phone calls. I know a couple people that have built this, and I can ask them and we'll get it taken care of. But I just want to go ahead and I'm going to read through the instructions and see if it says, because I couldn't find anywhere in the pictures on the wings to where the rib caps ended. Yeah, I know that they start right at the edge of the front sheeting. Did they end right down here? Here, I'll show you here. Do they end right down here at the trailing edge of the wing? I think it made reference to you sand them to go along with the trailing edge. So that's very possible. Some of the ones he did came up short. Some of them did not. So that's what I need to find out if that's what it is. And then so the next thing I'm going to be working on is the ailerons. Let me get you back up top side here. Now with the ailerons, yeah, they were very poorly put together. This part here, it needs a lot of work on it. I can make do a lot with what's on the bottom. As you can see, he liked to leave gaps, big gaps, and I'm just filling those with a piece of balsa. Put it in there, gluing it, sanding it down. Once it gets covered, you're never going to know it's there. It's just one of the little irritants that I'm working with. And I'll probably come in and replace these ribs. This one's kind of chopped up a little bit, so I'd be replacing this one. But I'm still trying to decide how far I want to go with the ribs on the aileron, just because it's not the way it needs to be. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. Some of these come all the way out to where they're supposed to. This isn't. It's actually, it's short and it's dropped down. So, I mean, if I want to, I can just come on in, put a little piece of balsa on the top, sand it down. I mean, that would be the easiest way to do it, and that may be the way I end up doing that. My whole thing I've got to do on both of the ailerons is the end piece, because this piece is missing. I don't know where this piece is. And I don't know how well you can see this. Did not do a very good job putting these things together. So I don't know how I want to work with this, the way it's all hacked up. I may just cut part of this off, put a block in there, and then just sand it down to the angle it needs to be at, which is probably what I'm going to do. Because I certainly don't want to have to go ahead. I think I've got enough balsa planking to cut more 1/4 inch, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and just fix the ends on both sides, because although this one is much better, it's just, if I could show you, no, it is a little bit better. So this is probably the one he did second. But then again, I'm missing part of it. So I think with the ailerons, I'm just going to go ahead and just take both end pieces off and just make 2 new end pieces. I know how it butts up against it, and I know where it finishes out. So I think I'm just going to go ahead, and it's maybe 1/8 inch laminate. I'll find out. I'll read the plans. I think it's 1/8 inch. So what I'll probably do is just do it the same way they did it. I mean, I know for the fact that this one here was put on backwards from the way they want you to put it on. This piece right here is supposed to be up on the front side of it. So I'll just go ahead and see, it's supposed to look like this. Unfortunately, it was cut off. So I'll just go ahead and get, I'll make new ends. And it's not going to require any kind of little template to make. I'm just going to take those off and pretty much just kind of cross grain laminate them, and I don't think there's going to be an issue with them. I will be back down here in the shop in 2 days to go ahead and get these things taken care of, and then after this is done, it's just me banging my head against the wall working on the lower wing, because I did a little bit of work on it today and it requires a lot more than the top wing.